So last week we had Callum Walsh and Tabitha Ritchie on the show, and that was a great podcast, really fun and really enjoyable. I was listening, and I was also obviously in the podcast, but afterwards I was thinking, when I listened back, what happened with the 73 or 74 euro when you went back to the casino?
Never mind the 70. Man lost everything he won the whole day.
I was hoping that wouldn't be the story.
He bet the whole lot.
See, this is a great, I was thinking anyway.
That's casinos.
That's casinos, and also gamble responsibly. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
It's risky, boy. It's risky because he was there talking big about, so Dana, he's so smart. He has a thing, he walks away when he wins.
Yeah, that never works.
So I was wondering why I didn't hear from you afterwards.
Yeah, no, he lost. I had so amount of money, but gambling is so fun, but it's dark by when you
That's
get
the
down
danger.
that hole.
That is the danger. This week, a few of the topics we're going to discuss. So besides Callum Walsh losing all his money, we're going to also talk about the fights coming up on Friday in one championship. So I can start going through the card there, but and you can
there, and I'm going to be the Joe Schmo now who goes back and forth with him. For everyone out there now who's not massive into one, you're on my team, but we'll pick Shane's brain today.
Yes, I think there's a lot of people who still are,
but
on
even
the fence
myself,
about
like
it.
it's like it sounds unbelievable, and anything I've watched of it, it's unbelievable. But like I don't know why it's not just like, when you're dying to watch UFC. It's just not mainstream yet or something. I don't know, and I feel like. It's coming though, big time.
I think I would have said some of these reasons before, but a lot of it is to do with probably the fact that so UFC is an American brand. They have all of the fighters either, well, not all of them, but a lot of them will speak some English.
Yeah.
You see it way more in your face.
You don't get those promo clips, or you don't get like the classic UFC press conference clips and stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of them wouldn't speak English, so a lot of them are Thai fighters are coming from Russia and Asia, so you don't get the same you don't build the same rapport with the athletes. But I think that will change the more we see the fights, the more we see the banging fights. So this Friday we have one fight night 67 or 68 coming from Lumpinee Stadium, and the main event is see, this is one of the reasons as well you can't pronounce names. Prajanchai is fighting John Indabella, so that's the kickboxing strawweight world championship. A very interesting fight. John Indabella has been champion for a few fights in a row now. He's defended it well, and he's a very classical kickboxer, so he has really nice style that he mixes well together. And any time that the Thais transition into kickboxing, they're at a slight disadvantage in the sense that, Prajanchai would have obviously had way more Thai boxing fights than kickboxing, so he's limiting his skill set to go in and try and put on a show. I think with the bigger gloves as well, it suits the kickboxing style a bit more. Like if you're fighting with MMA gloves, you can't do the typical kind of shell guard that the kickboxers like, but I still think it's an interesting fight. Prajanchai is the Muay Thai champion, so he's trying to become two-sport champion.
Freaky shit. What's he transitioning from to
Muay Thai
to kickboxing?
Yeah. So it's not a big.
Remember last time we were on about Muay Thai and kickboxing, and I always kind of just put them in the same kind of group together. I didn't know there were such differences. Yeah,
massive differences.
So what's the main one now again? Go over it again because I can't even remember.
Well, if you were watching it,
Muay Thai is little gloves.
No. So the traditional Muay Thai is normal gloves. But I suppose if you're not into Muay Thai or kickboxing, when you're watching them, you mightn't see much difference, right? But the main differences would be things like the clinch. So in Thai boxing, you can hold and you can work in close range. You can throw knees, elbows, you can sweep. In kickboxing, once you engage, separate straight away.
Like boxing,
like boxing. But even in boxing, you can actually do a bit more work. Yeah. They really separate the second there as a clinch. Also in Muay Thai, when you catch a kick, you're allowed to strike or to sweep or to throw the kick. In kickboxing, when you catch the kick, you have to release it. In the one kickboxing rules anyway, because there is a variety of different kickboxing rules. And then another big aspect would be the elbows. So in Thai boxing, you can throw elbows. Kickboxing, you can't. But then in one, they have made the Muay Thai where you fight Muay Thai with MMA gloves. So it actually makes the sport even very different from what traditional Muay Thai is. Because the big gloves, obviously it's much harder to land punches, but with the small gloves, fellas are throwing absolute bombs, which makes for very entertaining watching, to be honest.
That's big, honestly, because I never, that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't know. I never knew that, the differences between Muay Thai and kick. I just thought it was a different name for it.
Yeah, and I think
that goes to show, I didn't have a Scooby-Doo. Yeah,
but then it kind of makes for a different type of fight as well, because Thai boxing would traditionally, a typical Thai boxer would be fighting at a slower tempo, whereas kickboxing would be fast combos, volume, lots of volume. So in a kickboxing fight where the scoring is, it favours every strike kind of scores the same, so the more you throw, the more likely you are to win. A Thai fighter is normally taking their time.
Damage.
Yeah, kickboxer like John Indabella now will be throwing 8 or 9 strikes in a combo.
Bombs.
Yeah, but there's speed,
and
powers.
Scoring really
but exactly trying to score, get the scores on the board. Yeah. But I think Prajanchai, it's smaller weight category. Like strawweight isn't big lads.
Is that 125?
I think
115.
I'll have to check.
I think straws are actually 115s, are they?
But see, one championship weight categories are different.
They just do their own thing by don't they? They just make up their own sports and all. Like
they actually do. They make up their own sports.
124. Sancho usually fights at.
And is that strawweight?
That's just his weight limit.
I tell you now, strawweight is 115.
But like, these boys are tiny.
I don't know. One championships. No, sorry, that's UFC strawweight female. That's what Tabata fights in. But then one championship strawweight is 125.
That's tiny, like.
Yeah, same as a flyweight in UFC, like.
125 pounds is about less than 60 kilo.
But when you look at those fights, like, you kind of lose out on the power, but you get a lot more fucking speed and you get a lot more action.
Madness.
Like Demetrius Johnson, when he was fighting, he was so much happening in the fights.
Rapid.
But that's the main event, and I think, again, it's going to be a banger, great fight. If you were going to ask me to have a pick there, it's tough to know because I don't think Prajanchai has fought in kickboxing, not to my knowledge. But, if he can land something significant and hurt Jonathan DeBella, could get the win. But if Jonathan DeBella is allowed to
he's the favourite, so
set his rhythm, I would say so, yeah, because he's the reigning kickboxing champion and he's a kickboxer, that's his domain. But in the co-main event, then you have a very interesting fight. So Superlek is fighting Kongthoranee.
That name alone, he has to win.
He's in savage shape. When you look at a picture of this fella, he's about like 24 pack. But he's fighting Superlek, who's an absolute don.
He's the name animal. I know, right?
Yeah, and it's like Superlek is scheduled to fight Haggerty in September, and Jonathan Haggerty's the big fighter from the UK for the title. But I think the Thais don't like being inactive because they're so used to fighting like every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. So for this, I don't think Kongthoranee, look, anything can happen in a fight, but I think Superlek said, I want to fight, and they just said, because like anyone other than Haggerty, I think at the moment won't give Superlek a fight. So
really,
I don't think so. But he's just too good. Yeah, he's shit hot. Like he beat Rodtang in his last fight.
Oh yeah,
he's been really.
Do they get paid every fight?
Oh yeah, every fight. Yeah, they be on a contract that kind of level. By the way, that's Rob coming in. That wasn't Jake changing his voice.
That wasn't me turning into an old owl.
Yeah.
But so they get paid every fight. But like, surely they must be, because like if that was the case, they'd be fighting every week. Obviously, once, right, boys. Look, you can't be going every 2 weeks. Like.
Yeah, I think
they're obviously capped. Like you can't just fight non-stop at a big organisation.
You be like if it was the old days before one championship, like the Thais would have definitely fought once a month, like the big Thais in the stadiums. How mad is that?
Like that in the UFC, you fellas fighting once a year. Twice a year.
Yeah,
like the active fighters in the UFC are like 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
Maybe 4, you'd be like, holy shit, this fella's insane. Yeah. Whereas like that's nothing to these Thai boys.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, man, it's just the culture over there, they do it from so young. That's just the way they have to make money, and I don't think the money was great either, right?
Exactly. So they got less, so they had to fight more.
And the gyms, like I said the last time, the gyms, they're kind of owned by the gyms, right? So the gyms are making money, so they're kind of incentivized to put them in more often. There's a big gambling scene associated with Thai boxing in Thailand, and that's probably one of the other reasons that it pushes them to be more active. Plus in Lumpinee Stadium and Rajanchai Stadium, if you're the champion, you probably have a lot of guys looking to fight you and challenge you. So that's the co-main event. Again, really interesting fight, going to be a good one. In the next fight on the card, you have Superlek against Kiamran Nabati. So Superlek is the lad who got a bit famous recently for having the biggest legs. His calves are like the size of baseball or basketballs. Really? Oh, his legs are huge, boy. Could you put up a picture of him up on screen? Yeah, Superlek. So his last 2 fights have actually been, I think his last 2 fights have been against 2 Irish fighters that are from the same gym in Dublin. So he's fought Stephen.
Smashed them both.
Didn't smash him, like he beat Stephen Cordy in a very entertaining fight. He won by decision. Stephen is so Stephen and Craig, who fought him, are both fighting out of Dublin Combat Academy, but Stephen is based out of PK Sanchai in Bangkok. He fought him in the last fight, and he had a really entertaining fight. There was a few knockdowns. Stephen scored a knockdown first, and then Superlek got 2 knockdowns after that. But the fight was a war, very interesting fight.
Forth.
So these are his legs.
Holy shit!
Yeah, they're big legs, boy.
And that is, holy shit, by the shape that he's in.
Yeah, well, his legs are just like,
his legs are insane.
But so that was his last fight was against Stephen, and the fight before that he fought Craig Oakley. Craig is coming out of DCA as well, Dublin Combat Academy, savage gym there in Dublin, and it was Craig's first fight he won a Road to One Championship 8-man tournament in the UK.
Kind of Contender Series type of thing.
Exactly, he won that and he got a 5-fight contract, I think, or an 8-fight contract. But that was his first fight, and he hadn't fought for a while leading up to it. I don't think he got going. You know, it was very early. He got caught with a body shot, and he just didn't get going. But look, Superlek is a dangerous fighter who does have, you know, savage power. So he's fighting a Russian, and it's actually their second time fighting. Nabadi knocked him out a few years ago in a different promotion. So
back for revenge.
It's that to give. Yeah, well, you know, smaller gloves could be a completely different fight. So as we said, that is one of the biggest, I think, one of the biggest shifts that One Championship have done is like completely changed the way that Thai boxing is fought. Like having the small gloves, because it get traditional guard, the punches get through. They just get through, and also it makes fellas want to throw punches more. So fellas are just banging each other. But really interesting fight. Again, another one that's going to be a sick fight. Shadow is fighting Jimmy Vinout, and Jimmy Vinout is a French fighter that hasn't fought in over a year. Shadow's been very active. Again, in his last fight, he fought an Irish fighter, Eric Eyre, fighting out of Tipperary, but again based in Thailand at the time. And Shadow's a big kicker, but Jimmy Vinout, after being out for so long, I think he'll want to come back and, you know, make a bang.
It was a great fight.
Yeah, Shadow and Eric, really good fight again. Lots of knockdowns, really entertaining.
I didn't know where in Ireland he was from.
Tipperary, yeah.
So many Irish fellas in one that you're like, I've never heard of any of these fellas.
Yeah, well, they've all kind of, it's been very recent. Like before that, there was a few Cork lads. So Ryan Sheen from CR Warriors, Sean Clancy from CR Warriors. They were on one in the recent years. But
one is a big promotion as well. Like.
Huge. But I think the Thai boxing aspect, you know, it's the first time that Thai boxing has been mainstream, like quote unquote. There was some other promotions that made it slightly mainstream, but one's been the biggest. Yeah. But that's another great fight. I mean, the card is just stacked, right? So then you have Tyson Harrison, who's a lad from Australia, fighting Suabin, another Thai, and Tyson Harrison is a really entertaining fighter. He comes out and just looks to fight. Some part of Australia, I don't know, Sydney, I'd say. Harrison, I don't know, it was his last fight. He hasn't fought in a while either, but in one of his fights, he came out afterwards and said that he shot himself in the second round. And he was open about it. Like he said, it was so hard then to
focus with a shit in your hands.
I don't think he shot himself like full on shot, but like sharted.
Yeah, like you think it's a fart and you have to squeeze it halfway. Like,
exactly. But I thought it was cool of him. Cool of him to come out and just say it, you know. But I don't know.
Did he say it in the ring?
During the fight.
No, but did he say it as in his post fight?
No, he came out afterwards. Right. Can you just check when his last fight was? Tyson Harrison. It'll usually come up on the internet there, but it's definitely been a while since he's fought, and he's fighting a good Thai. Again, a Thai that likes, you know, like most Thais, not afraid to get stuck in. So I think it'll be an interesting one.
Yeah. See when he lost in round 1, and it was the 22nd of September
of last year.
Of last year, yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a few months. I thought that. I don't know, is that the fight? Who was he fighting in that one?
Oh, Jesus, you're going to make me try to say his name. Kalu Abadam Sor Jor Payik.
What was the one before that?
Akim.
What was the one?
It's worse. Tapa Akuyua Singya.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious, look.
Yeah. Okay. I can tell you that his name straight away. Kulabdam. That's what he's called. Kulabdam.
There's no way you made Kulabdam that long.
So I think it was in the Pangsari fight that he shot himself, but we can look it up afterwards.
He definitely shot
or maybe the Sexton fight. But fair play to him, he's a young fella as well, very young and a very entertaining fighter. And then there's so many fights in the card that are going to be bangers, but a few more that I want to talk about. Well, this is the last one I'll actually talk about, is Pakorn against Rafi Bohic. So Pakorn is a legend of the sport, absolute legend. He's in the end stage of his career now, but he's actually on a bit of a winning streak. So a lot of Thais will do this. They'll be like in the stadium. So before One Championship, the biggest platform in Thai boxing was either Lumpinee Stadium or Rajanchai. And usually it was all Thais, or majority of Thais, in the top 10. So those Thais would only fight in Lumpinee or Rajanchai, and that would be their career. And then when they finish their career in those stadiums, then they start travelling to like the West and fighting Westerners, but they usually fight like a weight class above what they fought in the stadiums, because they'd be enjoying life, relaxed, just making a bit of money. And Pakorn's been in that stage of his career for a while now, but as I said, he's on a bit of a win streak. He's been fighting a bit in Japan. And Rafi Bohic is a French fighter who was the Lumpinee Stadium champion. His style is kind of more traditional Thai, and it could be an interesting fight with Pakorn, because Pakorn is that style, you know, from being in the stadiums for so long as well. But that's also a rematch. Rafi beat him a few years ago by decision, so interesting to see how that goes with the smaller gloves on as well. But I always do encourage people, if you're not like too aware of one, Friday Night Fights is free on the Sky Sports YouTube channel in Ireland and the UK.
That's a massive thing. I didn't know that either before you told me.
Yeah, and you can watch it back, man. Like
it's free on YouTube on Friday night.
It's so fucking good.
Insane. Is it the whole card free?
The whole card is free, and usually it starts at like 1 o'clock, like in our time during the day. No, PM, like 1 o'clock in the day.
PM.
But most people are on work. But I normally do is like I just that night, like 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock, just watch it, and you can skip through in between the fights, watch the fights. And I'd say in every Friday Night Fights that I've watched so far, I've seen at least 5 knockouts in the cards. Like there's so many knockouts, like, and that's what people like to see. You know,
They're
again,
insane,
like people that are kind of, you know, enthusiasts of Thai boxing would kind of say, it's after changing the style so much because fellas are just going in and like throwing way more punches than they would in normal Thai boxing. But it's making Thai boxing mainstream. It's making it entertaining, and you still see a lot of really good Thai boxing in it as well. So it's going to be a good card, and incentivizing hopefully some people to watch. All those people that are listening who love Thai boxing and that know a lot about it are probably hoping I talk a bit more in detail about it. But I think as we go through the podcast, we'll start maybe, you know, closing in on some of the cards coming up. In the end of the year, there's some big cards, and I actually have to correct a mistake I made there the other week when we were talking about Prajanchai and Joan Adawat, and I said they're rematching on the same card as Haggerty and Superlek, but I was actually wrong there. They're going to rematch in Atlanta, and Haggerty's fighting Superlek in a different card in Colorado or something, I think. In Denver. Will you check that as well there?
Yep.
Those two cards, because coming into the end of the year, we're going to have some big cards. So that's the one.
We'll have to do we'll just try and do like a watch along sometime. Do you ever watch Joe Rogan when they do Fight Companion?
Yeah, the Fight Companion.
I love listening to them. That'd be sick to do.
I actually got an idea as well, boys, for
we could go do a live.
So that is in Denver, yeah. So that's going to be fucking unbelievable.
Yeah, boy,
Harrison's fighting on that card as well. Harrison's fighting Sexton. That'd be good. And another good idea would be when we're interviewing someone the next time, like Callum, the next guest we have, we should go to a beach and dig a hole and have the podcast while we're digging the hole.
We were going to do that. Well, we were going to do a podcast before while we were building this room.
Rob's looking at us like we're after going off cue there completely.
What's going on? Like, am I missing something?
No, I'm serious. Because you know, like I was digging a hole. My buddy did a week on the beach.
And just for the crack. Just dig a hole.
I went down to Ardmore with my daughter and my missus, and to my friend Niall O'Callaghan, his missus and his daughter, because they're the same age. And we were going to the beach, and outside Niall's mobile home, he had 2 shovels, like kind of kid shovels, but they were wooden handles, like sturdy ones, like. Yeah. And I saw him, and I was like, sick, they're cool shovels. He was like, yeah, do you want to dig a hole? So I was like, fucking, I'd love to dig a hole.
I'd love to dig a hole now.
I tell you, boy. And listen,
I'd love to dig a hole.
We dug the biggest hole I've ever dug, right? And then it was about 5 o'clock by the time we finished, and the girls were playing inside the hole, like, and you couldn't, if you were walking towards it, you couldn't really see the girls until you got closer. So there was loads of like couples out having an evening stroll, and any couple that passed, the men would all be like, and they'd walk over and they'd be like, Jesus, lads, that's some hole. Yeah. And the women would just be like, what the fuck are the lads like? But
tell you know, dying to dig a hole, right?
It's honestly some crack. And I think it'd be a good podcast just having, you know, a chat.
Or we could just do a YouTube video just digging a hole. How deep can we deep?